Disclaimer before I begin. I won't be bringing up any of Morge's claims in this video, as I feel the in-story evidence for my side does more than enough to render any theory regarding the raid failing as obsolete. With that out of the way, let's get to the video. Can you carry the land of Wano on your back? This scene is the defining picture of two sides in the community. Either you believe Luffy's shoulders can bear the weight of Wano's plague-filled history, or you don't. And while inflammatory as it is to say, the former is far more based on narrative cohesion. The latter, while what should have been a lame theory forgotten as soon as it was picked up, still has plenty of people subscribing to it. I'm not here to attack the initiator himself. I actually concur with a lot of his other takes. I'm instead only going to be examining the raid will fail theory that he coined. Because this raid on Onigashima cannot fail, and there's hard-lined in-story evidence that only bolsters this idea, with absolutely nothing to suggest failure. And this evidence that I'll be diving into now goes all the way back before the time skip, in the last war we witnessed. Luffy failed. When the weight of the world's might stood against him, he shattered. He inspired those around him and received acknowledgement from some of the best. But when the most dire situation befell our heroes, Luffy was not there to spur them forward toward another day. He came to save, but at the end of this conflict, he was the one who needed protection. But there was one man who stood above the rest. With a whole era at his back, he made a declaration to sacrifice his front to spur forth a brand new generation. Where Luffy collapsed when failure reared its harrowing head, Whitebeard ignited the last remnants of his subordinates' embers. And not only that, his final words cemented a new era that he would be vacant from. Like Roger, like Odin. With his dying breath, he demonstrated why he stood at the top. Even when he fails, he dies with a smile, holding promises of future success. And his words to Blackbeard reveal who this success will culminate toward. He will inherit it all. The will of the past, Ace's will, Roger's will, Odin's will, Joy Boy's will. And this man begins his new journey with a promise of his own. He will be the next one to stand at the top of a new age. And, quite in character, this declaration wasn't even in the forefront of his mind, but an afterthought that's main purpose was solely for his friends. He didn't tell himself he would make the world more free through his journey. He broke the chains of subjugation through staying true to his simple way of life. It was unconscious, but it was always what he was meant to do. Luffy is not some chosen one, but he is the man with the perfect set of characteristics to take hold of the world's fate, a destiny that will usher in a new dawn. This new era riding on the back of failure. Failure when faced with the world's darkness spanning 800 years. But from that failure, Luffy rises, garnering the strength little by little to finally match this looming darkness. Every victory post-time skip is a checkpoint toward breaking those shadowy chains. And Wano is the ultimate culmination of everything to do with this new journey of success thus far. Luffy enters this isolated country only having a brief rundown of its poison-filled history behind him. His shoulders are relatively weightless. Through exposure, though, a picture begins to be painted, one of a once beautiful country revered for its strength, now withered and weak due to the binds of a great dark mass. But still, it is a mere fragment of despair spanning 20 years. And this whole plague itself is but a mere fragment of the whole that is the 800 years of despair plaguing the entire world. This new conflict acts as a microcosm for what Luffy will face in the story's future. He must usurp this new subjugation, for, if not, how could he ever hope to bring about a new dawn? Luffy, in this arc, must prove he is the man capable of cementing his place at the top of this new era. And when he gets his first chance, he fails. His attacks lack impact against someone who has stood at the summit for a while. Kaido has held this past weight for a long time. He knows how Whitebeard, Roger, and Odin died. He knows their relevance to this country, and he knows why this place is important for his goal of Pirate King. All of this knowledge culminates into one name, Joy Boy. He wants to achieve what Joy Boy could not, to become the new painter of this world's canvas, a canvas that the world government currently control. Joy Boy, like his name implies, probably wanted to promote a world of laughter and joy, but even when Kaido's path resembles something similar, it's revealed to be superficial. Kaido cannot become Joy Boy. He cannot be the one to match the world's darkness, because he doesn't understand the meaning behind this great retaliation. He knows and respects how all of these legendary men died, but he doesn't understand why they died. He wants to replicate their grandiose deaths, but can't even conceptualize what made their deaths so impactful in the first place. It's not about the aesthetic of their demise, it's about what they died for. They didn't succeed because they showed mettle in their last moments. They succeeded because they dispersed their will to future successors with their final actions. Kaido has all of this knowledge of the past, but understands none of it. But Luffy in this fight is even more in the dark. He knows next to nothing. He had just begun to see what his foe's influence has done to Wano. It's the people that make a country. Tama is only one of many unfortunate souls. The weight of her despair alone is not near enough to pierce a man who has inflicted trauma on an entire population. Luffy is weak with so little behind his blows, and is easily cast aside. But from this failure, a period of knowledge is initiated. Udon is important not only because of Luffy's much-needed training, but because he witnesses the full extent of Kaido's chains. And not only is he exposed to it all, but he understands why it led to this, and how to resolve it. If his will is being challenged, he would do what he's always done. He'd take it on with a smile on his face all the while, just like Oden did, just like Roger did. This unwavering swell inspires the broken to mend themselves back together. The raid on Onigashima is riding on more than Luffy's failures. The failure of the scabbards who could not protect their lord, the failure of a samurai who could not open up a country's borders with his own hands, the failure of a king who could not sit at the stool in front of the world's canvas, the failure of a man who could not liberate his friend, and the failure of a son who could not break his father's chains. These instances are failures in a vacuum, but are stories that lead to eventual success when taking the future into account. All of them. Every single failure culminates into one success story, a mantle of success that Luffy has the abilities to now hold. He knows the Scabbard story, Oden's story, Ace's story, Yamato's story, and not only that, but unlike his strongest adversary yet, he understands why these stories are important, what they mean to him, his friends, and the Wano country. He knows what all of these separate failures, adventures, and people have in common. They all resonate with freedom. If Kaido yearns to silence this freedom with subjugation born from a lack of understanding, then Luffy will beat the drums of liberation and demonstrate why he is worthy to stand at the top of this new generation. At the end of the previous era, in a war that someone else led, Luffy failed. Now, here, a new war that shakes the world on a similar scale is being led by Luffy. He picks up the failures in his last war, his latest battle with Kaido, and history's failures dating back all the way to Joy Boy's promise. He wears them on his back and uses that weight to pierce Kaido's tough scales. As Whitebeard said with his dying words, someone must carry this weight to challenge the world. Luffy uses a semblance of that gravity here to showcase the first rays of a new dawn. Damage he couldn't muster before in a flurry of blows is now visible with one heavy attack. The Song of Failure has already been sung for many who have ties to Wano, Luffy especially. There's no more room for it here. Not when so much is at stake. Not when this is the perfect scenario for Luffy to prove his status to the world. The Straw Hats have already proven themselves worthy to be under the King of the Pirates in their individual bouts. Now, all that's left is for Luffy to show why he leads them, by ending this raid with success.
お前らを超えて海賊王になる男だ